Guys, what is going on? My name is Ryan. I play chess and put my videos on YouTube. Today I wanted to expand on my Beginner to Chess Master series and talk a little bit about a nice tactic called the double check. Not all tactics are created equal, in that this is one of the most powerful tactics that are out there for chess players to exploit and use in their own games. So what is a double check? A double check is a check delivered by two pieces simultaneously. The most common form of a double check involves one piece moving to deliver check and revealing a discovered check at the same time from a piece it had been blocking. We can see this here in my diagram where the bishop was in front of the rook here on f3, and it moved out of the way and checked it both at the same time as the rook checked it when it moved. The implication of a double check is that the only possible replies from the other side are king moves, as both checking pieces cannot be captured or blocked at once. So let's go ahead and look at a couple examples I have put together from some of my own games, and hopefully explore some intricacies on the power of what double checks can do. So here we have a very simple position. White is obviously winning in this scenario, and we're going to start with some easier examples and increase in difficulty from there. So in this position we have a couple things going on. We have this bishop right here pinning this pawn. We have this rook on this file, and this bishop and this queen here are holding down on the light squares, making it very difficult for the king to move. It's actually a mate in 2 here in this position, and black goes ahead and moves back to what is one of his only choices at this moment. We just come in here with the queen and check and force him back to his original square, and when he moves there, this allows us to come in here with the pawn. It's important to take with the pawn here because it opens up this rook to deliver check. This is a double check here because the pawn is giving check, protected by this bishop, and this rook is giving check. So that's the basic principle behind what a double check is. Let's move on to a little bit more complicated position. We see here in this game that this knight is shielding a potential check from this queen. Our knight is also able to jump to a checkable square, giving us a double check here on the e6 square. And so what he goes ahead is blunders and takes our f5 pawn, but this allows a mate in 5 for us, and we come in and execute our double check plan. We check with the knight here and also the queen, and like I said earlier, the only potential moves from a king in this position is king moves. So the king moves to its most logical square, and this allows us to come up with another check on the king, protected by the knight, so the king cannot recapture. It forces him to move down a little bit further. And from here, we go ahead and bring another piece into the action. The king's starting to feel very crunched, and he moves his knight, which is basically his only response at this point. And we go ahead and take with the bishop, which allows us to, he has to reply to this, so he has to recapture with the queen. But our knight right here, even though it is vulnerable to being captured, we've hit him with a series of checks, and so he hasn't been able to respond and recapture our knight. But our knight right now is doing a very good job of protecting against any possible, flight squares on this g file right here. So it's restricting him to this h file. When the queen moves here, again, only the queen can recapture because this bishop is protected by our queen, so it cannot take with the king. Queen has to take it, and this blocks his only other flight square for the king. So when the queen moves here, notice how this knight is restricting both this g7 and g5, and our mate in 1 is right here. So this is checkmate right here. So that's a powerful double check. This is a little bit more of a tricky double check idea here, but basically it goes on with him moving his rook right there, and this allows us with this bishop-queen connection right here to come in with a check. The king only has 2 possible squares in this scenario, and we just took away this h2, so his only square is h1. And now this sets up a nice double checkmate for us. We are now able to use our knights, and that's something you'll find oftentimes with a double check, is that a knight is often involved in it simply because it's more maneuverable, and it can jump over pawns and pieces, whereas a bishop can't. So this allows us to move our knight into a position that it could be taken, but it's giving check at the same time. So you'll often find that knights are involved in these, and you see that here with check. Again, we're taking away this h1. His only possible move is to recapture here on g1, take our bishop. When he does this, this is a mate in 2 here. It's a nice double check from this queen and this knight here. So he cannot recapture either of these. His only possible move at this point is either h1 or h2. It makes no difference to us. He moves to h2, hoping that he can, maybe recapture or something, but we go ahead. The queen is protected by this knight and deliver checkmate. This is checkmate right here because he cannot take this knight as it's defended by this bishop. So that's a nice example of, some ideas of a double check in some of your own games. Here's a very powerful example of a double check. It starts off with us checking the queen or the king right here. Our bishop is protecting our queen, so we're able to do this, forcing the king to move towards the center. And this allows a mate in 3. So we come up and check again. He moves to his only possible square, e7. And this allows us to come in with our knight. The knight is taking away this square and this square for the king, so he's forced to recapture. And this is a common theme of a double check. My original picture that I showed you guys, this is basically the same theme that's going on here in this game. We see this is a check here, and it's also being checked by the rook. He has no more flight squares, and this is actually checkmate right here. It's a very good-looking checkmate. And I wanted to save the best for last. It's actually a smother mate tactic that I'm going to be covering in one of my other videos, but I just love smother mates so much. It's one of my favorite tactics in the game. So he starts by bringing his queen down here, thinking about delivering checkmate here on g2, but unfortunately we were able to come up with check now that he's evacuated this 8th rank file. We're able to come up here with check, and he's forced to defend that check as his king is right here in the corner. We'd ignore this and just go ahead and sacrifice the exchange because we have a nice little tactic here. King is forced to his only possible square. We go ahead and deliver a check again. He's forced to move back to this a8. For example, if he were to move to c8, we could simply bring our queen over here, defended by the knight, and deliver checkmate that way. So he's forced to move back to this a8, and when he does so, it sets up my favorite tactic in all of chess, and that is a smother mate. So this is my first video. I'm going to do a part 2 to double checks because I think they are so important in chess and hard to kind of find in your own games, but when you do get the knack of finding them, it'll totally change your game. So I hope you enjoyed this video on double checks, and I wish you the best of luck in your chess. Thank you. Bye. What's up, guys? Thanks again for watching my video here today. I really appreciate it, and if you have any questions about any specific moves or anything about the game, please leave them below. I'd love to answer those. And last but not least, if you got anything out of this video at all, or you just simply enjoyed it, I would highly encourage you to subscribe. It helps me out a lot, and that way you can, get in touch with any future videos that I put out. Anyways, have a good rest of your day, and good luck in your chess.